Those familiar with previous Steamworld games probably know the drill by now. The fine folks at Thunderful Games select a well-worn subgenre, such as a Metroidvania, or a card RPG or tactical strategy, create a game of that genre in their post-human Steamworld universe, inhabited by silly robots, and exhibit full mastery of their selected genre without adding much that's new. I am both very pleased and a tad disappointed that the station has managed to do this exact thing again with city builders in Steamworld Build. As a veteran of city builder games, I've found Steamworld Build to be a delight that sucked me in for hours for every sitting. Players will enter a wonderful land of Steamworld that is equal parts ridiculous, intriguing, and endearing. If you've played any of the past entries in the franchise, such as Steamworld Dig 1 and 2, Steamworld Heist, or Steamworld Quest, you'll be met with all the charm you expect when your prospecting family heads out to settle a new, empty land in the desert to search for rocket parts that might help the last of the robots escape this post-apocalyptic world before we run out of resources. The premise of Steamworld Build mechanically is quite similar to every other city builder. You begin with natural, untouched wilderness, use those resources to build homes and offices and shops and factories, and automate one process so that you can turn your attention to a more complex one. Repeat. Not many games have managed to break from the mold on that pattern, but I will acknowledge that the basics of colonialism are mechanically present in this genre in a way that feels kind of inescapable. Still, it is interesting that by the time Steamworld Build begins, we've exhausted the world's resources and we're desperately digging into ancient ruins in search of tech that could help us escape our fate. Despite the dire circumstances of this world, Steamworld Build retains the silliness and charm of the rest of the franchise the entire way through, from its characters to its cutscenes. After choosing one of 5 maps, you're given the option of picking whether you'd like to engage with the story or not on this campaign. This is actually a great idea. Of course, I played with the story on for my first campaign, but for future campaigns, the ability to turn off the characters and cutscenes to just build from nothing is really exciting. There's also a sandbox mode, of course, if you want to model out your own town free of restrictions, but I recommend finishing a campaign first so that you can understand the processes and resources needed to make each building work. You'll start with residences that can house basic workers, and then you'll need to supply certain basic needs such as a general store, service stations, etc. to keep them happy. Meanwhile, you're harvesting wood and sand and converting that into lumber and glass, transporting your resources around town with the use of interconnected warehouses. These warehouses work perfectly to allow you to expand freely, since placing any warehouse near the woodcutter will get supplies to the lumber mill no matter how far away it is. It'll just take longer. You can also freely move all buildings from one spot to another at no cost, which should be a baseline requirement for all modern city builders. Soon you'll unlock engineers who can make more advanced buildings and find your way down to the mines, where the sausage really gets made. There are 3 pretty massive mine levels beneath each map, and each one's different from the others, as well as being themed differently, so as not to feel too samey. The mines are where your diggers, prospectors, guards, and mechanics work together to extract resources. You'll need scrap, water, oil, gold, rubies, and many other resources to expand. As I said before, the end goal is to collect all 6 rocket parts. 2 rocket parts are on each of these 3 underground levels. Find both the rocket parts for sub-level 1, you get access to sub-level 2, and repeat. While this all works together nicely, and the overworld and underworld flow together really well, I found myself getting consistently stonewalled by the requirement to designate physical tiles as workshops underground in order to get more bots. So for example, to summon 1 digger on a floor, I need to designate 9 contiguous tiles to be a workspace. If I want a second digger, that's 3 more tiles. Getting the rocket parts on the first floor requires a minimum of 6 diggers, so while exploring this floor I'm expected to designate 24 tiles just for the digging. That isn't counting the dozens each I also need for prospectors, mechanics, and workshops. The thing that makes this a problem is the need for workspaces to be continuous, because I can't simply move them around as I could with buildings. Be careful of cave-ins as well. You'll need to build support structures as you expand the workshops, and bridges to cross new areas in the caves and keep them safe from collapse. On each underground floor, I quickly ran out of room for workspaces and was unable to summon as many workers as I really needed without going back and destroying a lot of my old work to reformat. I lost money in the process that I don't believe that I should have. By the time I got to the last underground floor, I was so overwhelmed trying to fit the workspaces in that I just gave up on the extraneous exploring that, by the way, I had really been enjoying, and focused on the rocket parts. I think a simple solution to this is to require 2 tiles instead of 3 for additional workers, reducing the amount of room needed by 33%. Regardless, I highly recommend the dev team look into making an adjustment here. I was also consistently running low on money, while I seemed to be able to balance every other resource. The quickest way to earn money is simply to build more houses to summon more residents, which I feel is kinda counterintuitive, but thankfully all bots will assign jobs to themselves, all the way from workers to scientists, because I would never have been able to comprehend controlling the over 1,000 workers my town ended up with. When you're running low on a resource, you can hit up the train station to set up a deal with a neighboring town. This saved my butt many times, as I kept running low on sheet metal and tools, but I was able to keep the town running smoothly through purchased resources until I could establish my own sources. The train arrives and departs on scheduled times that you need to strategize around, which I also found compelling. There are also power-ups for individual buildings that can be purchased at the train station or unlocked, but I feel these are just too weak in the grand scheme of things to matter much. I of course used all of mine, but I never felt a difference from a single warehouse producing 50% faster out of the 23 warehouses I owned. Perhaps another nitpick, but the icon for robot happiness is either a red angry face or a green happy one, but the indicators on each house are red and angry at 99% happiness. They don't turn green unless they're staying at 100% happiness. Because of this weird UI decision, an overhead sweep of my town makes it look like there are 400 unhappy citizens, when in fact all of them are at 90% plus happiness. I think a somewhat happy robot icon might be in order. Farther into the mines, there are also combat encounters with nests of giant bugs that are attempting to stop you from digging and kill your guards. You're going to lose a lot of guys. Combat is passive and is performed by guards, using different weapons from the aforementioned power-ups. This is the one instance where they're invaluable, because the flamethrowers are necessary to survive in the bug-riddled depths. I enjoyed how combat interacted with my town management a lot. It provided little bursts of adrenaline so as to not let me get too comfortable. I played Steamworld Build on my PC with a Ryzen 5 3600 and RTX 2060 Super on 1440p and a 144Hz monitor. I ran the entire game at ultra settings at 1440p 144 FPS, and I did not experience a single stutter or frame drop. Steamworld Build runs like butter. However, I did experience a few glitches that had forced me to restart the client. Many times while digging out dirt tiles underground, the dirt tile didn't disappear from the screen even though the game treated the space as empty. This led to me losing tons of miners inside of non-existent blocks, and even getting ambushed by a group of bugs that should not have been hidden. Leaving the underground and coming back didn't reset the issue, it actually required a full restart of the game each time. Outside of this specific, but highly recurring bug, there were no other glitches to speak of. I've had a fantastic time with Steamworld Build, and it is certainly ranked among my favorite city builder games. I anticipate I'll be playing this one for several more campaigns. I don't, however, feel that it offers much in the way of innovating on the genre and breaking the mold, the way that my favorites, Against the Storm and Airborne Kingdom, did, and instead focuses on streamlining the city builder experience to make it as easy and accessible as possible. While Steamworld Build on its face looks too complex for a total newbie, the easy-to-manage interface and the clear descriptive tutorials go a really long way in making it more accessible than most other RTS games I've played. There's also a fun but unremarkable story with voice-acted scenes, but I think after finishing their first 7-hour campaign, most players won't be interested in leaving the story on for the next playthrough. Steamworld Build has both thoroughly impressed me and been amazingly fun. And while I've got a few nitpicks, the complex and layered systems do really just work. I recommend Steamworld Build to all, whether you're a city builder veteran looking for something new, or just a Steamworld fan ready to set your first foundation blocks down in a new genre. 8 out of 10. Radiant. I reviewed Steamworld Build on PC with a review code that I received from the publishers. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any thoughts on Steamworld Build, please drop a comment down below. If you're interested in more of our reviews, head over to GameLuster.com, drop us a subscription. We got a lot more for you here. Thank you so much.